Welcome to session 23. I don't get a big introduction from someone else for this session, but each year I look to put on a session called New BIM Tools. And right now, the hot topic really is centered around AI, Chat GPT, and all of these other fantastic ways in which people can use machine learning and other technologies to improve the way in which they work or take time away from what they're doing. We're not going to push the envelope that far this year. I think I'm going to hold off another 12 months to see what the technology is doing before we try and talk on that. But let's go through what we're going to talk about today. So first of all, I'm going to just obviously cover off on an introduction in terms of what we're going to be covering, in terms of what tools we're going to be covering as part of the session for today. Then I'm going to go through the actual new tools. So we'll go through a bit of detail. And that'll be a mixture of demonstrations from myself and conversations from myself and the product reps themselves in terms of what tools they have and how they're going at this point in time. And then we'll have a conclusion. So we'll close out this session with comments in regards to how overall these type of tools can change the way in which we work. So what are the new tools that we're going to be looking at today? Let's make our progress and see what we're going to be doing. So first of all, I'm going to talk to you about Operam Academy. From my perspective, tools just aren't about the day-to-day tools you're using, but also thinking about your training. So going back to the session that Moyes ran earlier today. Second of all, we got Mortar, and you saw a little bit of Rob Jackson's presentation earlier today, incorporated some elements of Mortar. I'm looking forward to showing you some other crazy ways in which you can use that platform to do some inventive stuff to solve problems within your practice that everyone has to deliver. Then we're going to move over to Tapia, and it's been great being part of helping Enzyme launch and continue to run the development on that API tool, and you'll learn more about that shortly. We've also got an update from Christian Bursell from CAD Swift on his Infinite Objects. Always have been a big supporter of Christian's work and have encountered and had lots of fun over the last 8 years, probably going to events together, and those late night conversations over drinks where new ideas are born. And I think that the work that Christian has to offer the Archicad user community, I think, is immense, and there's so many great ideas that he can help us gain efficiencies across all of our practices, which is great. A great tool also out of Europe and Seetoppo. I go back to the work that that Andrew Zarb was talking about earlier today, and I personally think that there's opportunities to speed up the process in which we create our site and context for those early master plan phases before our surveyor can come on board and provide us all the extra information we need, that is to a higher level of accuracy for our projects. And then closing out with Spaces from Cerulean Labs. And I think hopefully by the end of this session, you'll be excited by the 6 tools, products that I've selected to share with you this year. So first up, we have Operam Academy. So Operam Academy is a training platform for ISO 19650. Let's jump into it now, and I'll take you through its features and how it can assist you within your practice to improve the skills of your team and be able to become better and more knowledgeable in the information management processes within the ISO 19650 standards. So I want to talk to you about Operam Academy. And Operam Academy is a UK centred course on information management and the ISO 19650 processes. It's a course that was developed by the author, or one of the authors or co-authors of ISO 19650 Part 1 and Part 2 in Paul Shilcock. And I undertook this training about 2 years ago, and I keep renewing my annual connection to it or subscription to it. But overall, there's not many providers across the globe that can actually provide you with this level of professional training with regards to ISO 19650 as a standard and a process. So always the most important thing, first of all, is understanding how much it costs to get access to this training. And you can see here an individual license is around £199, which in Australian dollars can vary from about 360 Australian dollars through to about 400 Australian dollars, depending upon the exchange rate of the day. Operam Academy also has a bulk users for up to 5 users. It's not actually here on the website, but they do actually have a package for that. And if you have any interest, reach out to me and I can help put you in contact with Paul to obtain your licenses. I am an affiliate with Paul, so any sales that anyone that has interest, it'd be great if you could click through to his website from mine. It'd be great assistance to help bring this event and put it on by clicking on those links. But overall, pricing is very reasonable compared to a lot of other courses you would see out on the market. This is the kind of the information management practitioner course. Now, I will not show you all of the details, but you can see the information regarding the content of this course in the associated PDFs that you can get off the website. But this is the full curriculum to obtain your credential. And you can see here that it starts off covering about what's BIM all about, the information management overview, information requirements information. Then it starts to go through the process of information requirements and how that is structured based upon ISO 19650. So for example, you can see here that you have your variety of lessons, and then you have your assessment at the end. Now, I won't go into any more detail. Don't want to give away the questions, but the positive thing is that the videos have interaction throughout. So it's not just watch this whole video and then do your assessment. There are little kind of quizzes that aren't marked along the way to assist you in understanding and learning as you go. So honestly, even without my affiliate nature with Operam, I honestly believe this is probably a course that is of great benefits, even for those that actually aren't delivering projects yet in accordance with ISO 19650 standard series. It's of great relevance to understand better ways in which you can communicate and collaborate with your collaboration partners, specifically around the requirements or level of information need. So I highly recommend it. Jump on it today. We've got to continue to learn about these processes, not just the software that enables us to deliver projects successfully. And now we take a look at Mortar. And Mortar is a platform that I was introduced to a couple of years ago, and I met Mo, the founder, a few years ago. At the time, they'd only just started their journey in terms of kind of coming out to the public realm and sharing what they were doing. It was great to catch up with Mo and his team again over the last couple of months and talk to him about, I guess, sharing what Mortar can do for Archicad users all across the world. So now I'll take you into Mortar and show you some of the things that it's been designed to do. But also, I don't know how well people know me, but I like to try and find, see a tool and see what it's capable of doing that it may not have been designed for. So you'll get a bit of insight into both what Mortar's designed for, but also what I have been able to successfully create as a working example from it. So now we're on the Mortar website, and we won't spend too much time specifically on this site. We'll go straight in and dive into what Mortar has to offer. This is what happens when you first land in Mortar. You end up with your projects. And what we'll do is we'll go into the Mortar community to show you what Mortar has been designed to deliver. It is a little bit different from what I've done to it. So within the Mortar community, and the way that Mortar is designed, and you'll see here in a moment, that it's designed to essentially replace Microsoft Word and Excel spreadsheets that a lot of us are using in the design and construction industries, and replacing that with the solution that has the best of both worlds and looks to try and actually connect the data together. So it's a different approach to creating information compared to those that work in Microsoft Word and Excel. Now, this has been set up in a response to delivering projects in line with ISO 19650. And it started, I believe, when I'd spoken to Mo about it, it was started kind of along the lines of trying to produce the master information production and delivery tables. So you saw earlier in Rob's presentation where he was talking about the need to track all of that information, and he actually demonstrated how that's captured within Mortar. So in here we have a variety of different templates that have set up and how you can use those templates. And you can see here it's a combination of text, and what's going to occur is essentially a database view will appear in here. And this is just the base template, so it's kind of a little bit empty in some ways in terms of what information is actually appearing in here, which is quite difficult. But you can see here all of this stuff is loading up, so we won't go into much detail, but you can see here it's a combination of databases and views of those databases. So they have a lot of templates. You can see here all of the different ideas that have been put forward. Timesheet management, which is a completely interesting approach to it. It's just like kind of similar to how I've looked at it a little bit uniquely. But this is a task information delivery plan. And the idea is that people insert their information into the task information delivery plan, so then it actually then contributes to the overall spreadsheet. Now, the reason why I don't have permission to view this is because I'm not an owner or a contributor to this project, so therefore I can't actually gain access to it. But you can see here, this tool essentially has a whole pile of I guess you could say templates to enable that to occur. Now, the key thing also that Rob talked about in his presentation is integrations as well. So this tool doesn't try to do everything. It's not a CDE. So it's also looking to connect to your CDE environments. So you can see here all of the big kind of ones that most people are used to with Aconex, ASite, ACC for the Autodesk customers, BIM 360, SharePoint and Viewpoint. So they're kind of they're not trying to be a CDE, but you saw in Rob's presentation how they were trying to connect the two together. Also within this, I guess the key thing to kind of cover off on is pricing. And then once you see this, then we can kind of go into the demonstration that I have created. But it's quite a simple pricing model that Mortar has in place from memory. And I'll just wait till this loads up so I don't say the wrong thing. It's 25 UK pounds per project. It's not specific per user. Now, a user is a person at the top that essentially is the owner of the data. A person can contribute to the data and information without having to be a paid user. And then it's per project, and it's about how you go about managing that information. You could manage it within one project environment, or you could have an individual project for larger organizations. You could have an individual project for each project. Then they have support and services to essentially help build API or workflows on top of how you are building things. So it's quite a nice thing. Now, I saw Mortar, and at the moment, I personally don't have any projects that I have to deliver in accordance with ISO 19650. So something that the original specification we built at Fulton Trotter, or the original Archicad template, was based on trying to build a specification that we could connect directly to the model. Now, what I have done is I have taken my specification that I have normally created in Microsoft Word and Excel schedules, and I have replicated that very, very quickly into Mortar. So Mortar has the ability to create, this is called a process. I look at it as call it a heading. If I wanted to do best practice, I would create these as sub-processes, but I haven't done that in this extent. But what I have is all of my trade sections relevant to my NatSpec trade sections, and this is a NatSpec residential, and this is a residential project that we're looking at right here. And then I have my selections down here at the bottom. So similar approach to the way we did it. I did it in Fulton Trotter. I also have a coding structure, but it's a lot smaller now because of I'm only a one-person practice rather than having 10 directors guiding the direction of it. So you can see here, these are the codes and descriptions I'm using within Archicad and my full specification. Now, once again, this methodology is not perfect yet. Ideally, these items would be in a table. So we would see this in a table and it'd be more exciting. But there is the exciting ability here where we can go copy link to section. Now what we'll see is the exciting stuff that can occur because of that. So let's go into our Archicad file. Now within Archicad, I can click on any element, and we'll click on this screen here, for example, and we'll bring over our classifications and properties. So what I have done is I have added two Archicad properties, product material code, and I'll show you what that is, and then a product specification. Now, to get all of these in, there is the ability within Mortar to copy all of the sections automatically and then bring them in using the info. So we can come in here with our classifications and properties, and how I did it was I created a schedule, exported the schedule, and then imported all of the URLs, and then imported it back into Archicad. So each of the elements within the model now have that code. Now, why is this important? Well, there's two workflows we have to think of here. We have to think of the normal builder and see how they work. Now, a normal builder will still want to have paper drawings on site. And when they have paper drawings on site, they'll need a QR code to be able to get those selections, and they can bring up the individual sections, or they can bring up the full product specification. So I've made that integrated into my documentation set. So if they have a printed set on site, that's all they need. Now, there's two other ways we can look at it. And what I want to do now is, first of all, let's duck over to the IFC version. So here I am in Celebri, and what we want to do is we'll click once again on this screen, and you can see here I have a parent info or property set group of skewed specification, and I have my value hot link there. So let's click on this link here and see where it takes us. And you can see here it's gone to our full louver screen, and that's our full specification. So we have all of that taken from within Archicad, and we can see here that it's our movable screen. Now, one other thing we want to do is test our walls, because our walls are composites, right? Now, this is another trick that I've set up within Mortar, because we can't have our individual product selections attached to it yet based on the constraints. So we also have it set up, so external frame wall type 4, and we can see here it shows the makeup of that wall and then links to every single one of those products. So if we'll click on to our sarking, it'll take us to our sarking layer. Now, this at this point in time is a kind of messy way of going about it, because of the fact that I didn't use a table, which I could have used if I'd had more time to set it up properly in terms of getting consistency with all of the information types, like manufacturer, type, fixings, location. So that's all built into here. So now I can send out my model with in an IFC format to my collaborators, and they can identify and search and see what the specification is based upon clicking on the hot link attached to every single element in our model. Now, maybe the builder, once again, isn't IFC savvy. So what I'm going to do now is switch over to my iPad, and in my iPad I'm going to open up the model once again. Now let's go into our file, and we will go up and turn around, and let's go to a roof. Let's click on this roof, and then info, and now I've set up a custom view for this process. So in terms of the information that's attached, so we'll click on that, and then we're going to get our roof information off Mortar. So once this pops up, you'll see that Mortar isn't just for our people that are working on projects ISO 19650. I've taken Mortar and used it to create a cloud-based specification system where all of my elements in my model are connected. It means that the builder on site can see what's going on in Archicad. So we'll flick back now over to Archicad, and we will head to a floor plan, for example. And we can see here my code system, which we have. Then we're using our interactive schedules to bring up that information over here, which then will be reflected in Mortar over here, where we go to our, and I forgot what I was looking at then, our floor finishes, our floor surfaces. So we go to our floor surface, and our client was going to pick that carpet still. But you can see here, this can be a really good way of tracking what's in your model and tying a specification to it. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'm hoping to put together a longer detailed webinar on how the process of actually building this from scratch, rather than being a quick overview. So on to the next product. So moving on to Tapia, from my perspective, I really love how people go out there and do the best that they can do with the resources they can get their hands on, and kind of crowd develop tools and products, all to make the capabilities of the users of Archicad even better. It's sad that we're in a situation whereby we have, as a community, have to do this work for free, in the sense there's no one out there that's willing to fund it. But it's kind of almost like it's in its early days. And I look forward to the opportunities that whereby people see the value in this tool, and they then want to invest in helping continue to develop the product further along and make it better. But now I'm handing over to Jorge to provide you a little bit of a demonstration on where they're up to at Tapia and how they're going in the future. So take it away, Jorge.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Nathan, for giving us a chance to discuss and update the community about Tapia in this conference. So for those of you who are not so familiar with Tapia, basically Tapia is an open source project that claims to be the easiest way to use the JSON Python API from Archicad without knowing how to code. Basically, this project is aimed to tap into different automations that can be done in Archicad, in the Archicad files, basically using Python commands and JSON commands. These Python JSON commands were released in an official package a couple of years ago by Graphisoft, and we decided to try if it could be possible to basically manipulate all these functions from Grasshopper instead of doing it straight, basically coding in a IDE or a coding program. So for those who are familiar with visual programming, this could be a really easy way to create pipelines of information or basically workflows for quality control or things like this that can be performed automatically into the Archicad files. So this exercise was born as an internal research and development project in Enzyme, led by Gregor Wilk and by myself. And then after a few months of development, we realized the project was too big for ourselves, and we thought also it could be a very interesting project for most of the Archicad offices in the world, really. And we decided to open source it. And very rapidly, we got a massive response of interest from different people and entities and groups of Archicad users and so on. And nowadays, basically, we have a solid core team of around 8 to 10 people that are helping almost on a weekly basis somehow to push this project forward. The current status of this project is after the release of the first prototype that was done by Greg and myself, we realized that the set of functions that were in the official package were not enough to basically provide a solid set of automations for Archicad. So basically, we found out about a way to hack the official package and basically using the C++ API, we were able, with the help of Victor Kovac, who is a really proficient and skilled C++ developer, basically create us an add-on that was able to expose new functions from the original C++ API into JSON. So basically, that's the first layer. We're creating new functions in JSON Python, and then we are basically creating a second layer, which is the Tapia Python API, which is basically creating different set of workflows and functions within Python, Iron Python, so it can be used in Rhino Grasshopper, and basically leveraging all these new functions as well as the official released JSON functions. And then lastly, there is the third layer, which is the Grasshopper plugin that is basically tapping into this two sets of APIs, basically the C++ add-on, new functions, and the Tapia Python API. There are currently concurrently two coexisting versions, which is the original version released by Enzyme, so to speak, and then the community version. The original version is production ready, so it's a prototype that can be used for many things. Whereas the new architecture and then the community version is much more robust, quicker, faster, but it doesn't have enough functions yet to be basically production ready. So you can find the most stable version in Food for Rhino, but we have already starting to release some alpha versions, so some pre-releases into the package manager of Rhino. So you can find there the new Tapir version. Basically, both of them are they coexist at the moment, and they don't have exactly the same functions, so you can basically install two of them. One of the things that we're most proud of is the community that has been created around Tapir. So there is a Discord channel where there are around 200 people basically discussing and providing ideas, feedback, support in many ways to the project. So we are very thankful for this, and we hope this community can grow actually much more, and the project can actually reach to many more people all over the world. We also have a roadmap that is public and that is basically accessible through the website. There is one link to this roadmap that is basically within the Tapir repository in GitHub. So you can check there what are the current functions we're working on, and then maybe the roadmap for the next set of functions to be developed and released. Those have been taken from ideas from the community and curated in a way, and basically put there in this public roadmap. This is just one example of how to use Tapir. So basically from an existing Archicad file, we're looking into selecting and filtering elements from the model based on IDs in this case. And in Grasshopper, we have created a small algorithm to know which walls are actually facing which direction. And then basically finding a property in Archicad that we can basically input this orientation, correct? And then we're showing how basically using labels, we are displaying this property in the plan. So it's a quite simple example, but actually explains very well what are the possibilities. Basically in Grasshopper, we can find any way to manipulate the data, and basically the Tapir project acts as an interface or basically a translator between information that has been taken maybe from Archicad, manipulated in Grasshopper, and then put back into the elements in Archicad. So there are many examples and trainings that we are preparing for the community in the website. We will do prepare more, obviously, since this is only the beginning. So you can go there and search in the website. And obviously, if you're interested in contributing in any way, so whether it's helping with basically the development, or obviously financial help, it always helps, because we are also incurring in expenses, the website, certain there are certain expenses that have to be covered as well, licensing and things like this. So we're happy to basically discuss any source of funding, both as a crowdfunding exercise, so very little quantities from a large group actually really count, as well as maybe including or involving some larger companies that they might be interested in applying this technology in some custom developments for themselves. And we're happy to help doing that, and basically maybe trading it for some financial support that can help us as well to put maybe some developers or some people more time or dedicated into the development of this community project. So if you want to check it out, and if you are interested, you can see more information in the website, basically in these two addresses, tapir-api.com or archicadapi.com, or just follow the QR code. And we are very interested in hearing your feedback and your ideas. So please join the Discord community and let us know what you think and what would you use Tapir for. So we might be able to make it happen. Thank you so much, and please join, and let's make this project even bigger and hopefully reach to most of the community of Archicad users. Thank you.
So now we're handing you over to, now we're moving on to Infinite Objects from CAD-Swift and the work from Christian Bursell. As I said in the introduction, I've always been a fan of the work that Christian has done, and enjoyed his company at several conferences across the world, where we've shared challenges that we're facing within business, to then for him to go away and understand what those challenges are, and then further develop his tool to make the use and specification of products and so much easier. And I really, really, really enjoy the direction that his tools are taking. And I think that there's a lot of benefit for users to embrace these workflows that Christian has been developing to make the modeling and coordination between your model and your specification even greater. So now I'll hand you over to Christian.
Hello and welcome. My name is Christian Bursell, and I am pleased to share with you the current state of development of the CAD-Swift Parametric Object Library for Archicad. We will be releasing our new cloud system to the public by the end of June this year, 2023. a system that will begin a new era of product-specific BIM content where you no longer need to download an object file. At CAD-Swift we have a series of tools that contain the moniker Infinite. These tools have two special features. Firstly, they can achieve any configuration or style you will require, meaning you can rely on the one tool for all possible configurations of a specific element type. Secondly, you can save your configuration to the built-in catalog feature so you can access it at will. There are individual catalogs for each component within the tool, as well as the overall assembly. Essentially, we have enabled a placeholder methodology, where you never need to replace an object. Therefore, you can generate all the necessary associative coordination and documentation work early in the project, knowing it will respond to any change within the element modeled with a CAD-Swift object. Using the catalog feature, you can also establish a comprehensive quality control system for your entire project. Through interactive schedules, you can quickly see which components are set to catalog items and which are not. You can then change the assigned configuration right there in the schedule. Our tools eliminate the line between generic and product-specific content. They are generic objects that provide access to product catalogs, through which they can morph into any product. No need to download separate object files and replace elements, and no need to worry about the coordination of that object within your project. Every configuration is simply a series of data that is imported directly into the object's geometric and metadata parameters. Over the years, we have learned that providing such capable, highly parametric objects can result in tools that are complex to use. We have tested many interfaces to make our tools intuitive, and have recently produced a new interface that essentially has all the complexity working in the background while you focus on the typical variables. So let me show you how this works. This is our Infinite Water tool, where we have established our new rapid configuration interface. This interface shows you the 4 components of the tool and allows you to switch between catalogued configurations or preset styles. With the preset styles, which we will expand over time, you have access to the dimensions of the components and any placement variables. You can therefore very quickly define the components and assemblies you require. Once you have done so, you can very easily save your configuration to the catalog to ensure the settings are locked down and the configuration is accessible at will. You can save the element as a generic configuration, or if you are referencing the dimensions of a specific product, you can save the item using the product name, which will appear in your schedules for detailed quality control. We have several tools that will incorporate this more efficient and intuitive interface, including our other plumbing objects, sinks and basins, as well as our electrical suite, which covers light fixtures, outlets, switches, and meter boards. We will also be adding this interface to our gutter and downpipe library, where you can define your own gutter and fascia profiles. Recently, we have been making significant improvements to our ceiling tool, which now includes custom profiles for the ceiling panels and the implementation of our catalog function to store these profiles. Over the coming weeks, we will add custom profiles and catalog functions to every aspect of this tool. And when this is done, we will also improve the interface to include a similar rapid configuration function as the Infinite Water tool. Of course, we could not complete this video without mentioning our flagship tools, Infinite Openings and Infinite Joinery. There is no window and door tool in Archicad that is more capable as far as geometric variables and flexible opening panel configurations are concerned. The tool covers everything from basic awning windows to multiple panel cavity sliders, and even revolving doors and garage roller and panel lift doors. It also includes over 30 different components with their own catalogs so that you can apply mechanical openers, security roller screens, internal sliding screens, and all your typical fixtures. If you really want to create any opening type and coordinate your entire project's components, there is simply no other tool that can do so. Our joinery tool has the same level of flexibility and component control, and will cover every joinery unit you will need, from all-in-one internal robe fit-outs to every type of kitchen unit, and even height adjustable health furniture, office equipment and educational furniture, with optional legs, rails, casters, variable splashbacks, as well as custom shelf profiles, there is simply nothing this tool cannot achieve. And of course, you can store all of these components and the overall assemblies in the numerous built-in catalogues. We first started to build our CAD Swift libraries 16 years ago, and we developed the built-in catalogue ability almost 8 years ago. Since then, we have been refining the function with the aim of making our tools not only the most powerful, but also the most intuitive Archicad tools available. In June of this year, we will achieve our main goal of establishing a cloud system where you can build project-specific catalogues from an extensive database of generic and product-specific content. This will begin a new era of product manufacturers' BIM content where you no longer need to download an object file. We have been developing Archicad objects for almost 2 decades and will continue to push the envelope with parametric BIM objects.
Now we're on to Seetoppo, and Seetoppo is a tool that's been developed out of Europe, and it's only available currently in a couple of countries. But seeing how quick it works, I'm kind of sitting here going, please, please, please come to Australia sometime soon. Sadly, I haven't been able to have the conversation with them regarding the timing of when that will be available in other countries. But I really like the promise that this brings in terms of automating the generation of site and context, and really look forward to seeing it across other countries in the future. But for people that are in those countries where this tool's available right now, it's something that I'd be jumping on so quickly because it'll make the process of capturing that site information so much easier. So now I'll just show you a video that I've captured of their tool and the capabilities of it, and I hope people jump on it. It's great.
So here on the left, I have Archicad 26, and on the right, we have Seetoppo with a project pre-configured. But before we can actually start using Seetoppo properly with Archicad, we need to download the plugin. To do that, click your name or manage, and go to Plugins, Archicad, and then select whichever version of the plugin that suits your software or which Archicad you're using currently. Then please follow the instructions depending on your operating system to install the plugin. All right, that's it. But now we have the plugin installed. It's a very simple interface, which is basically just one button. So let's go back to our project. Now, having the project selected, we'll just edit it a little bit to get only the buildings we want. And after that, we go to CAD here and find the Archicad files. Now, just to start off, we'll just download one of them and select a nice coordinate system. There we go, we get our file. And then in Seetoppo, go ahead and find the newly downloaded file and select the map.sctp file and click open. A little dialog will pop up asking how you wish to place the model in your project. The default is to place it just at the origin, but we usually recommend that you select the second option here, in which case also the location, project location, is overwritten. This will help you with exporting IFC files as well as importing more data later. The third option relies on actually having used the second option previously, and the fourth option is an advanced option for advanced users. So let's go with this one. Click load, and then we'll have to wait a little while. So after a while, our wait is rewarded and we get a bunch of data. So here, for example, we can see that we have the buildings there. We have some terrain in the background and all kinds of other 2D data, as well as, in this case, a VGS 84 coordinate system grid and some trees. Let's head into the 3D view, and we can see that we have here our the 3D view of what we just downloaded. Oops. There we go. So we see the orthophoto is correctly mapped on top of the terrain, which is a mesh, and we have trees and buildings and all of this imported as well. That's how you get data into Archicad from Seetoppo. One thing to note here, because we selected the second option, is that now if we go to project preference, location settings, we can actually see that the project settings have been correctly configured, and we have the SWRF coordinate system even set up here, and other kinds of settings as well. And the north angle of the project also has been configured. Another thing to note is maybe the layers. Everything, all the layers can be configured in Seetoppo. And for example, we have a layer here with buildings, and it's called buildings.seetoppo. So if you just hide that one, all the buildings will disappear. That's the basics of bringing data into Archicad. Now, one thing we might note here is that we have a very detailed and quite intense mesh here, which might be a bit hard to work with, perhaps. And so we might want to download less detailed models. Now, there's two ways to really do this. One is in here in Seetoppo, to use the Alt key to select a hole in the model where you will be making, well, where you want the better detailed data, for example, over there. And then over here, you'll select this option, dynamic, to get this type of view. And now if we go into the settings, we can actually see that there's two tolerances here. We have now inner and outer tolerance. So if we, for example, put it like this and click download, we'll get a different type of file this time. Let's undo the import of that one. Go. Import it again. And there you could also already perhaps see what we wanted to see, that we now have a model that has a lot of data points here in the selected area and a lot less in the other parts of the model. Another way to do this is to download two models instead. And we might, for example, using the holes method here. So now first we download the outer part, for example, with a low setting like this. And now make sure to get the orthophoto in the outer download. That way it will work nicely. So we'll download the outer part with a photo and a low detail. And now we'll download the inner part. We'll just click this with this button here to select the inner area, and then head back here, and now make sure you have the photo disabled and the inner tolerance some kind of high value that you're pleased with. I also recommend disabling the grids because you won't need to have double grids in your model. And there we go, we have two files. Right, so then after that, we import first the outer selection, the 5, and use the second option. So there we go, but now we see we have a gaping hole where the detailed area should be. So let's just go ahead and import again the smaller one. And this time we'll take the third option. And as you can see, the second data matches quite perfectly. And also along the edges, the data is also quite nicely matching, as you can see by the triangles. If you go to the 3D view, we can see now that we have a pretty seamless interface there with high detailed data in the middle and less details on the outside. Now, if we wanted to get the orthophoto also, the inner selection, it's no problem. You just go here and search for ortho, and you find the material orthophoto here. Just select that one, and it should seamlessly match. There we go. That's two different ways of getting multi-accuracy models into your Archicad very, very easily.
So now we're moving on to spaces from Cerulean Labs, and those familiar with Campbell Ewell, who was originally running CAD image and was the reseller for Archicad out of New Zealand. I really see spaces as a niche product, And I think it's a product that would be very valuable within my old practice, where a lot of the other directors and senior people within my organisation were analog people. So they'd be doing all of their drawing work by hand, and then that work would then be transferred by hand by people like myself, who would then jump into Archicad and have to model it. Now I see Spaces as an opportunity to have a link or a connection between that hand-drawn sketch and the documentation requirements that we have, which then we rely on Archicad. So it's 23 hours and you're kind of going, but yes, no, it's a really, really exciting tool. And I think that it's one that I think that I'd really love to start to see embraced by the statesmen or the older generation that love their pencils. But now I'll hand them over to the team from Space just to give you a bit of a demonstration of how Spaces work.
Spaces is a brand new conceptual design tool that allows architects to use a sketch-based approach to quickly design, iterate, and refine their designs. Spaces creates a rich building information model. However, as it relies on sketched input, Spaces is very quick and straightforward to learn and use. No prior modeling experience is required. We have a vision to improve the built environment and believe being able to develop your ideas quickly is key to exploring multiple options before moving into the develop design stage. When designing, you should be free to explore, throw away, refine, and express your ideas without investing much time and resources. So, let's get started. The main working area is split in two, with the 3D model on one side and the 2D drawing view on the other. All great architecture starts with a line, so we quickly sketch the contours of a building with some simple strokes. The building is created automatically as soon as a closed shape is detected. This automatic setting can be turned off in the drawing settings, in which case the building is created after a finger tap within the outline. We have real-time feedback about the area of the building, allowing us to monitor this as the design continues to evolve. Buildings are created based on a series of defaults, for example, the number of stories, which can be configured via the context settings. You can adjust every aspect of your design. With the selected building, you can enable the edit mode and change the footprint with freehand strokes. You can also remove unnecessary lines easily with a squiggle. Once you're happy with the updates, you can hit approve and the model updates instantly. By pulling up the datums palette, we can add or remove stories from the building by moving the datums. Sliding the corresponding datums changes the individual story heights. You can use numeric input via the settings if you need exact values. Sketching works on the building facade as well. Selecting the facade tool opens the editor where faces can be selected and edited with the same sketch-based input. This sketch input allows you to develop your design very rapidly. Now we are happy with the shell, it is time to explore the size of the building in more detail and break it down with usage types. From the usage palette, drag and drop different usages to the 3D model. As you can see, the areas and charts update in real time. To speed up this process, you can assign a primary usage type to the entire building. With these details at your fingertips, you may also want more accuracy during editing. We can turn on dimensions and vector editing for that scenario, providing a completely different editing experience. We can reduce the size of the power plant at the top of the building by adjusting the edges and nodes of the contour. We can also create a recessed ground floor. In a real-world project, you would have a site to work on. In Spaces, you have a couple of options to create your site. You can import it as a background image, or even better, you can provide the address and import not just the map background, but the surrounding buildings from OpenStreetMaps. Adding the surrounding context is a vital part of the design process. We can now see the site of our office development, so we move the building into position. Now we have an excellent context for our design. The site provides our design context and allows for instrumental reporting and analysis. We can check detailed usage, site coverage, and floor space ratios in the report's view. We believe sketching remains the quickest way to get your ideas down, and often it's easier to collect your thoughts and ideas in a more traditional format. Spaces is also a digital sketchbook for collecting ideas. You can even trace over your 3D design just like you would do with tracing paper. Maybe the design would need some columns on the ground floor to support the building, and we might like to emphasize this fracture on the facade a bit more. Having explored those ideas, let's refine the model. With the column tool, we can create both standalone or intelligent colonnades linked to a building. We can also easily apply cladding to the building faces too. These building parts are smart, meaning they automatically follow the structure when edited. No tedious manual updates are needed. As we have set the exact location of our project, we can create a sun study to analyze the effects of our design on its surroundings. Via the settings, we can examine the effect of the sun on any day of the year. Switching the 3D to a top view shows how the sun and shadows affect the model. Earlier, we applied some high-level usages to the different floors of our design. To further refine and be more specific, we can split a story into multiple spaces and assign different usages. These spaces also show up in the Spaces report, which allows us to get closer to a design that matches the design brief. Collaboration is a crucial part of the design process, and we can share our design with our clients or colleagues via the cloud share functionality of Spaces. Our Spaces model integrates into the overall design workflow via the IFC export. The IFC model can kickstart the develop design phase in the BIM system of your choosing, or for further analysis in third-party solutions. The exported IFC contains all the spaces along with their metadata. After seeing what Spaces can do, download it from the App Store and get started with our free version, or start a 14-day free trial to experience some of the professional features. Finally, check out our website for all the details.
So, in conclusion, I hope that you learned something from seeing the 6 tools that I showed you today. And tools, I guess, is a kind of a unique word, I guess, because all of them aren't tools. But I think that sometimes the reason why I have the Operam Academy one in there is because tools, in terms of training, needs to be more highly regarded, I think, within our organisations. And I think that there's a lot of benefit in realising the importance that training has within your practice. So hence the inclusion. But that's now the end of this session. And we will look to have our Q&A virtually as we draw close to our final session today and our Skewed Archicad User Hall of Fame session. We don't want to run over. So I look forward to seeing you in a few minutes' time to close out our final session for the day.